Today we have lesson 3-2 Reteaching. The learning goal for this lesson is to use mental math to multiply by multiples of 10, 100, and 1000. Here we have a simple multiplication problem that you can use a pattern to identify larger problems that are similar to these. We have the multiplication problem 6 times 8 equals 48. But based on this problem, we also know that 60 times 8 equals 48 with the 0 on the end. We did this by simply taking the 6 times 8 and adding that 0 to the end. Another pattern we can identify is that 600 times 8 is also going to be 48, only this time we have two zeros that we are going to add on to the end of that number, so our product ends up being 4,800. We could continue this pattern by doing 6,000 times 8. Following the pattern we've identified in the past couple of problems, we know that this 6 times 8 equals 48. And this time we're going to count 1, 2, 3 zeros that we're going to add to the end of that problem. So our final product is going to be 48,000. This is a pattern that can continue on to 60,000. Just make sure that you are multiplying the non-zero digits. So in this case, 6 and 8 are the only digits that are not 0 in this problem, which we know is 48. And then you need to count up how many zeros are included in your problem. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to add those 4 zeros onto the end and then figure out where our comma needs to go. So our answer there is 480,000. Over on the right-hand side, you see the exact same problem, only using the commutative property, I've switched the factors. So in this case, if we did 80 times 6, it's going to be the same thing as we did over on the left-hand side. We're going to multiply the non-zero digits, 8 and 6, which we know from the commutative property is going to be the same as 6 times 8. And then we're going to add our 1 0 to the end. This pattern can also continue the same way it did over on the right. You're going to get the same answer because we know that the commutative property says that you're going to get the same. So we're going to add our 2, oops, sorry, I forgot my 8. We're going to add our 2 zeros on the end of there as well. Let's take a quick review over the multiplication properties. Two of the multiplication properties that are extremely important when identifying this pattern is the commutative property. The commutative property is the one that states that you can change the order of the factors or the two numbers that you're multiplying together without changing the product. You will still get the same product. A good way to remember this is to look at the CO in commutative property and pretend like it stands for change order. Okay, so look at the example down below. We have 15 times 9 is equal to, well, according to the commutative property, I can change the order of those two factors and still get the same product. So in this case, 15 times 9 is the same as doing 9 times 15. My final product is going to be the same, even though the order of my factors are different. Another property that I'd like to take a look at is the associative property. This is the property that states that you may change the grouping of factors without changing the final product. This property comes in handy when multiplying 3 or more factors together. In the example below, we have 8 times 20 in parentheses times 5. I can also regroup this same problem to change it a little bit and to change the partial products I get, but my final product is going to be equal no matter how I group these numbers. So I can also group this multiplication problem. I can group the factors instead of the 8 and the 20 multiplying first. I'm going to multiply the 20 times 5 first. What you'll notice is that you're going to get a different partial product in each of the problems, but that your final product is going to be the same. So on the left-hand side, when I multiply 8 times 20 first, I'm going to get 160 times 5. However, On the right-hand side, when I do 20 times 5 first, I'm going to get 8 times 100. In the long run, I'm going to get the same product. It's just a different process of getting there. We're going to use the pattern that we talked about on the first slide in combination with the multiplication properties that we know to find the product of 30 times 3 times 50. We have a couple of different options here. If you'd like to, you could group together 30 times 3. We know from the first slide, the pattern we found when multiplying by multiples of 10, that we can do 3 times 3, which is 9, and then add 1 0, which is on the end of that 30. Then once we have that product, you can multiply it by 50 to find your final product. Same with the first slide. We know that 9 times 5 is 45. And in this case, we have 1, 2 zeros that we're going to add to the end. Then we need to place our comma in. However, you could also group these numbers a little bit differently. Instead of grouping the 30 and the 3, you could group the 3 and the 50, where you're going to get 30 times the product of 3 times 50, which is 150. 3 times 15 is 45. And again, you're going to add your 2 zeros. So you're going to get the same product no matter how you group those numbers.